tonight's a little different because we won't have one person talking to one person. So we're calling this a town hall. My name is Todd Stauffer. I'm the publisher of the Jackson Free Press and Blue Jackson magazine, and I will be doing some introductions. First of all, I want to say thank you to Millsaps College. As most of you can tell by now, we are at Millsaps College, and they've made the space available to us a number of times. They're also helping us film it so that we can get it out to a wider audience afterward. We also have Facebook Live going, and Josh down here from the Youth Media Project is busy making sure that we're live on Facebook. So if y'all are out there with your phones and somebody can't get to the event, they can watch it. They should be able to get to the link from the Jackson Free Press's page on Facebook. Another sponsor to note is the Solutions Journalism Network, which not only is making it possible for us to do some of this reporting through some grants that they've given to the Jackson Free Press, but they also have literally made it possible for us to bring Kai this evening down from New York and to accommodate him and to try to get in front of the Jackson audience some different ideas for how we can solve some of our problems. So what I'm going to do is I'll introduce Kai. He's got a presentation he's going to do. We're going to bring up the rest of our panel, and I'll introduce them at that time, and we'll have the discussion go forth from there. And in past one-on-ones, I've asked you to write down questions, but tonight will be a little more free-for-all, so if you've got a question, you're just going to have to say it loudly so that we can hear it on videos and everything. So our featured guest is Dr. Kai Smith. Kai was released from prison in 2002, labeled a career criminal with 6 felonies, written off by society as absolutely helpless. Kai vowed to not only change his own life, but the lives of others caught in the cycle that he was. Determined to change, Kai secured his bachelor's and his MBA from Metropolitan College in New York, an executive MPA from Rutgers University, a PHR from the Society for Human Resources Management, and a PhD in organizational psychology and operations management. He's the founder and executive director of GRAAFICS, which is the Gang Diversion, Reentry, and Absent Fathers Intervention Center, an organization that works with young adults who are in the street gang and looking for a safe and productive nation, have recently been released from prison and are actively seeking rehabilitation, are currently considered absent fathers and seek a healthy and productive relationship with their children, or have been classified as at-risk youth by either New York State courts or the New York City Department of Education. Let's bring him up to do his presentation. Please give Kai a round of applause.
Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you to Jackson, Mississippi. I'm a country boy, man. You know, I hear New York a lot, but for the record, I'm from the country. I'm from a little small, beachy gutter town. Some of you probably heard of, some of you probably don't. Beaufort, South Carolina. How many people know what Beaufort, South Carolina is? Raise your hand. See, I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina, so you know, when I came home to Jackson, the first thing I looked to do was go get some soul food. And Cassio took me to sugar. And I was like, damn, I'm home. So, you know, I'm not gonna be long with it. I have a presentation that I brought for you that's going to give you a clear-cut example of who we are, what we do up and down the East Coast. And you know, when I travel around, I do these presentations. One of the things that I try to do is crystallize it, give it to you as clear as I can, and then once it's over, I like to open up the floor for questions. I think that when we look at learning styles, when we think about things under the auspices of learning styles, everyone in this room has a different learning style. Some individuals are process learners, some individuals can see it and pick it up. And so for me, probably what's the most important part is at the end when I open up the floor for questions so that you can ask the questions that you want so that you can get your own understanding and take your understanding back to your household or your understanding back to your community. Watch this. So youth, guns, and gangs is a hot topic all around the nation. It's just as hot as Black Lives Matter. I feel like it's directly correlated. And so usually when I do these presentations, I start off by saying, you're going to hear over the next couple of months or years or whatever, you know, you're going to hear all sorts of individuals come and want to give you their advice. And from birth, from toddlers all the way up to this age, individuals are always looking to give you their advice. And one of the things that I train the young adults that are in my program, we have over 4,000 young adults in the city of New York. And one of the things that I always tell my kids, always ask yourself, what qualifies this person to give you their advice? Because some individuals are boisterous and they have swag and they'll tell you something and it'll be all the way wrong and it sounds good to you, so you take that information and you apply it to your life and it's wrong. And we misguided. So always ask yourself, what qualifies a person to give you that advice? What I want to share with you right now is, I want to give you an example of what qualifies me to give you my advice. Who's GRAAFICS? The acronym for GRAAFICS is Gang Diversion, Reentry, and Absent Fathers Intervention Center. The photographs that you will see beyond this slide are actually real photographs of my kids. What is GRAAFICS?
From experience to learn and choose. I'm not going to stand here and try to impose my way on you. I'm going to empower you with choice. Last week we was at prison, this week we at the college. You choose.
I'm Kai Smith. I'm the founder and executive director of the GRAAFICS program. The acronym for GRAAFICS is Gang Diversion, Reentry, and Absent Fathers Intervention Center. The program was established in 2003. I wrote the program while I was in prison. When I was born right here in New York, and I think about my childhood, there are some dark memories directly connected to drugs, prostitution, fighting, selling drugs that early. I think I may have been in 7th grade or 8th grade and had already begun experimenting with the drug trade. So that situation had led me back to juvenile facility. I've been in prison 16 years. I have 6 felonies. Was trying to be the absolute best drug dealer that I could. I remember the day that I sat down in my prison cell and I got the pen and I got the pad and I started writing down my thoughts and my ideas of what an effective reentry program would look like. And I thought, who better to design a reentry program than someone like myself that had been in and out of prison so many times. I know what it is to keep individuals like me out of prison.
Path in the direction of solution.
I started the program. GRAAFICS is the parent program to G-Line Apparel and to Models for Nonviolence because of my brother's death. I was home from prison maybe a year. Someone was being initiated into a street gang, shot my brother in the face 6 times and shot him in the chest 3 times. We offer gang diversion services through education and entrepreneurialism in schools.
Yo, Dr. Smith is real, yo, and I'm gonna make the environment cool.
The school identifies a certain number of behaviorally challenged kids, work with them throughout the course of the year, modify their behavior, and then transition them back into a healthy classroom environment.
Best thing that ever happened to you in high school. Christopher Columbus final year, we going out with a bang.
I had students that would sneak off from their regular class to come to his class. He was trying to get kids in the basketball tournament, trying to take them out of the street activity, the negative street activity, to put them in something right, to show them that there's a future.
Models for Nonviolence is something that's never been created before, it's never been done. So today is the dress rehearsal for Models for Nonviolence. And it's also one of the fundraisers for the GRAAFICS program.
There's a swag. It's about you. That's what the word swag means. This is about
allowing individuals to go into their closet to pick certain outfits, and they're going to walk the runway with the outfits that they pick from their closet. And the whole entire thing, when you package it, is bringing awareness to violence. Each model will come out and she will introduce herself and she will, say,
my name is Jane Doe. My sponsor is Baby Gap. And I use my beauty to speak out against date rape. And then you do your thing. Bam. You come down, you walk.
The mission for me right now is to build something that will be here long after I'm gone. My little brother died the death that I was supposed to die because I was in the street. I brought, I shot people. You name it, I did it. So the life that I feel he would have lived, I now have to live.
GRAAFICS is a 4-tiered intervention program that offers highly intense anti-violence and behavior modification life skill services to targeted populations throughout the greater New York area. Keep your eye on that word, target. Tier 1, schools. In our partnership with schools, we help to address the challenges of student attendance, behavior modification, violent incidents, workforce development, and staff professional development. Tier 2 is in the community. Our works in the community allow us to address gang enrollments, gun violence, offender reentry, fatherhood, youth employment, and community restoration. Tier 3 is in institutions. And our partnerships with both adult and juvenile justice facilities, we approach rehabilitation via educational workshops, life skills training, and extracurricular activities. Tier 4 is in the home. Wraparound services in a child's home and community involves mentoring and monitoring from us, in addition to partnering with and being able to make direct service referrals to additional community-based organization service providers. Targeted youth is defined to us as disconnected and or severely behavioral challenged youth and young adults between the ages of 11 to 17. Targeted adults are defined as at-risk, disconnected, and or returning men and women from the ages of 18 and up. Our mission is to decrease criminal activity, recidivism, and housing fathering by providing positive real-time alternatives for people genuinely interested in change. Keep your eyes on this word, genuinely interested in change. History shows us that a significant number of universally recognized community-based organizations, because their funds are limited, they can pour resources onto children who don't want them. Pour resources on children who do not want them. Therefore, the children who are or who want services, like my good little brother Zeke right there, children who want services fall short because we are taking so much time and energy pouring resources on kids who have already identified that they don't want them. Our vision, GRAAFICS visualizes helping children by helping their fathers become more responsible, helping ex-offenders by providing healthy alternatives to reoffending, helping gang members by providing a safe out that will lead to a more productive life, and helping the community by changing the way that our participants think, process information, and approach situations. We visualize success through child and self-works and through transparent partnerships with those that support our people. Why are we here? Why are we here? That picture speaks volumes. That picture right there speaks volumes. Okay? A company called Votec. A company called Votec did a report. I don't know if you guys have seen this, and I don't know if this is a matter of public record, but you need to see this. A company called Votec did some research in Jackson and produced a report implying that the people of Jackson were both disturbed and concerned that youth, gangs, and gun violence is present and is growing out of control. In response to that report, the Jackson Free Press came to New York City, met with me, researched my program there, and sponsored my visit to Jackson as a part of the Preventing Violence series. Our objective is to develop and deliver customized services that will provide Jackson Public Schools with a new and measurable approach to reducing incidents and suspensions, adjusting behaviors and decreasing youth recidivism by using effective non-traditional programming and wraparound services. How does GRAAFICS work with at-risk and disconnected youth? To divert youth away from those decisions and or behaviors that will eventually cause them life harm, GRAAFICS uses two approaches: education and entrepreneurialism. If you ask me outside of this, I'm not going to say education and entrepreneurialism. What I'm going to say is, I teach kids how to fish, and I show them where the fishing hole is. Where do we do our work? Inside public middle schools and high schools, as vendors to the New York City Department of Education, New York City Administration for Children's Services, New York City Department of Youth and Family Services, and New York City Department of Corrections. I leave here Saturday to go back to New York. Monday morning, we start servicing Rikers Island. 15,000 inmates on Rikers Island. We start effective Monday morning. We service those schools that have histories of mid-level to high-level violence, that are failing in their letter grade, that are on the list to be closed due to incidents, and or those schools that have transferred and or alternative students. That's a video, we're not going to watch that one. It's going to take too long. How it works. In alignment with the Chancellor's regulation and Common Core standards, our GRAAFICS Life Skills curriculum is blended with the teacher's lesson plan to produce a new daily lesson goal that speaks directly to each child's experience delivered by a credible messenger. Let me pause right there for a second and crystallize that for you. I don't know how it works in Jackson Public Schools, but in New York, each teacher is mandated to enter each day of class with something called a lesson plan. And if that lesson plan is not produced, and that lesson plan is not visible, and the principal comes by, that teacher can get U-rated. And so many U-rateds will lead to that teacher's termination. We take the teacher's lesson plan, we gel it with our lesson plan. GRAAFICS is a 6,000-page curriculum that I wrote. We got it aligned with the New York State Common Core, and it's the only program on the East Coast that is in middle schools and high schools delivered to those students as a 2-credit level. It's the only program of its kind. Why cohort enrollment? What we do when we go to a school, we challenge the principal to identify the 25 worst students in the school, the best teacher in the world. There may be some teachers in this room. You may be the best teacher in the world. The best teacher in the world have 25 students in the class. That teacher has to focus so much time and energy on the 5 students that are disrupted, they lose the other 20. Your child may be in the 20 that's being lost. What GRAAFICS does when we come into a school, we extract 5 students from each class, we put them in their own cohort. That way the teacher can re-engage those students that he or she can engage, and we work with those students, we modify their behavior, and we transition them back into the healthy classroom environment. These are our outcomes. 7 schools, 70% increase in attendance, 20% increase in grades, 75 kids got jobs, 30 field trips, etc., etc., etc. You can talk to me later on if you want to get more information with regards to this data. How do you engage kids and get them to participate in GRAAFICS? And let me just say this. As you look at these slides and as you look at the kids in these graphic shirts, 2 things that I want you to keep your mind focused on. A, when you see the clothing that these kids are wearing, these kids produce these clothes. When kids graduate from our program, they learn silk screening, they learn embroidery. As I said, we teach them how to fish and show them where the fishing hole is. Every one of these children that you see in these pictures, please do not be fooled with their laughter, because when we approached schools, the school principal told us that these were the single absolute worst kids in the school at that time. Okay? How do we work with these kids? Step 1, service providers. Vendors that offer programs with verified, credible witnesses and a curriculum of non-traditional, tailored, evidence-based practices. Step 2, youth participation. We allow the kids to actively participate in the design of the program that will be used to help them after all is their program. Watch this. I'm just going to be blunt with you because that's just who I am. I am tired of seeing dinosaurs sit in a room who have no clue of what's going on in the lives of these kids, coming up with solutions that they think will affect these kids or that will make these kids respond or behave better. And when it doesn't work, here is a barrel full of resources that are wasted. I think somebody named Einstein, I don't know if he's a bright guy or not, but I think he said if you continue to do the same thing looking for a different result, that's insanity. But yet, that's something that's being replicated all around the nation. It's their program. So why not take them, as the Jackson Free Press has done, Youth Media Project, why not take them? Why not take them and put them in a room and ask them what they want and then design the program around them? Street credibility. You're going to hear this word a lot, street cred, credible messengers. Select program that has been vetted by other kids as providers for live and or video testimonials from children that have participated in the program, that have graduated from the program, as well as the reviews from teachers and parents of these children. And a reward system. Kids know that if they participate in GRAAFICS, they have a guarantee that once they complete the program, they will be connected to a community-based program that will offer them something different that will really help them. And I have a few slides that I'm going to skip because I have some other panelists that are going to come up. They're video slides. But in this specific picture, I want to tell you, you see this young man in the back, the tall guy with the brown hat? His video is here, I'm not going to show it to you, it's a little long. A young man named Jamal Williams. And when Jamal came to GRAAFICS, Jamal was getting ready to get married, and I have to, I'm in his way. When Jamal came to GRAAFICS, from Guyana, no father, no mother, etc., etc. This is Brownsville, Brooklyn. When Jamal and I built a relationship, and he came, I took Jamal likes basketball. I spent $2,200 and I took Jamal to Madison Square Garden and got probably about to the 8th row. And then when we figured nobody else was coming, we scooted on down to like the 2nd or the 3rd row. And so Jamal stuck his hand out and LeBron came by and did like that. That changed the narrative of his whole life. Jamal came to GRAAFICS, and those kids right there, that is a specific set of Crips in Brooklyn. And when he came, he brought all those kids with him when he came. This is some of the stuff that goes on in the class. This is how our syllabus looks when it's in the class. And again, I'm going to skip forward through this because we have some other panelists, and I really, really want to open up the floor for questions and answers. Does GRAAFICS really work? As a matter of fact, let's watch one of the videos. This is Jamal.
I'm a student at Uplifting High School. I'm in the 11th grade. I'm in the graphics program because of my attitude in school and my attendance. My opinion about the program, I think it helps us before the program. I was in movement right, I was in the right path. And, you know, the streets was my home. And I didn't know anything. You know, Dr. Smith came in my life and he showed me, you know, a different way of life, you know. And I think every child or every kid in the hood needs this program, like it helps, and it's a positive thing.
What you're looking at right here is a student behavior report. When kids come to school, we get an evaluation, good kids, bad kids. I don't believe in that. But when we go to a school, we ask kids to assess and evaluate other kids. So if we got good kids and bad kids in the school, even though I don't believe that, when we come to school, we ask the good kids to produce a one-page reaction paper based on what they feel about the bad kids. And then at the end of the year, we ask them to write another reaction paper to show how they changed. That was a progress report that came from another teacher, okay? We're gonna pass these videos. How does it look when it's actually inside of the classroom? Last video, and then we can bring up the next panelist.
Allowed. Yo, if I hit that shit, son, first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get the Bugatti, I'm gonna get the what if. Let's go to what if right now. What if I can show you another way and you may not experience none of that? What if I can show you a way for you to then one day be like, all right, I'm gonna do what I need to do for my homies so that they don't go to jail. What if, man? What if I can show you a way? Because it's obvious to me that whoever your circle is, whoever your team is, you one of the leaders, you're one of the influential dudes, so why take a whole team of dudes to hell when you can take them to heaven?
Question. So at this time, I want to bring Todd back up and open up the floor for the remainder of the panelists. Thank you guys for the time. And
All right, so our three other panelists this evening are Maya Miller. Maya is the Deputy News Editor of the Jackson Free Press, reporting on crime, race, and other issues. She recently returned from New York, where she is a juvenile justice fellow with the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Donna Ladd, we know well, is the Editor-in-Chief of the Jackson Free Press. She is a W.K. Kellogg Foundation Fellow focusing on youth and media. She's also a John Jay College Preventing Violence Fellowship, and is part of, or has been instrumental in getting us the Solutions Journalism Network grants that we've used for this. And then Cassio Batteast has a bachelor's degree from Tougaloo College and master's from Jackson State University. He's a W.K. Kellogg Foundation Leadership Fellow in the Mississippi cohort and project director for M.A.N, multi-level intervention project based out of Tougaloo College that aims to improve outcomes for young men and boys of color in Mississippi by removing barriers and creating long-term support through policy and system change. So we will let our journalists start asking questions of the other panelists.
Should I jump there? I am a journalist. Hey, thank you guys for coming to this. You know, the idea here is to really just get everybody thinking and talking and thinking about what role you can play in preventing violence in Jackson. Welcome, John Knight. Glad to have you. Just in time for the Q&A. And one thing I did want to say very quickly before I ask a question is that we do have a bunch of members from the Youth Media Project here doing filming and photography and writing and tweeting and all sorts of things, and we're very happy to have them this summer. They're doing an amazing job. I also kind of wanted to add that in case there was an implication that we go into a school and are gathering up people who are having a lot of problems, that's not necessarily true. We welcome people who, students of, kind of all sorts. And so I just kind of want to make that clear that the project itself is different from what Kai is doing, but it serves a lot of the same purposes. It's a real mix of students from throughout the area. So just kind of want to put that in. Now for Kai, I think the thing I want you to talk about a little bit more that I've become really fascinated with in this past year that I knew, a year ago I knew very little about this idea of credible messengers. Right. And what I've kind of found in this whole world of preventing violence, and particularly youth and gang violence, and particularly in communities of color, and a lot of the areas that we're focused on is that, they're kind of two schools of thought, to make it oversimplistic maybe, but that the police need to lead the effort as opposed to credible messengers kind of going in and leading the effort. And I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, exactly what a credible messenger is, and why that you believe, and I believe, that it's very important for credible messengers to be kind of on the front lines.
Right. So what's going on in youth and gangs and gun violence right now? There is a rash of grants and other funding available for programs that would hire credible messengers. The pros and cons of credible messengers are this. History is always told by the person that survived. And when you think about the credible messenger, the challenge with that is this. Again, you may have individuals who control the purse strings of a budget and may have the ability to provide the funding or the resources that can come into the community that can most definitely help those African American and Hispanic young men that are caught in the system in this capacity. When you read the RFP, when you read the grant, it will say English, and I can't quote it verbatim, but it will say English that looks like that sounds like this. The credible messenger is the person that can go into the hood, and based on his reputation, he can squash beef. The credible messenger is the person that understands the street code and understands everything that the kids are going through, and if two kids are getting ready to get in a fight, a credible messenger can squash that fight, he can intercept the violence. The credible messenger is the person that can use the reputation that he has established when he was in the streets and use that to intercept additional beef or intercept future beef. Challenge with that is this. When you read further in the grant, the qualifications for the credible messenger has to have an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. Well, I don't know too many guys in the hood back in the days that was robbing and stealing and shooting and making their name ring bells that was on Tougaloo College campus or Jackson State College campus. You either going to do one or two. And so what that does is this. Because those individuals who hold the purse strings for that grant don't really understand the moral fiber of the streets, what that does is it handicaps individuals like John Knight, stand up. It handicaps individuals like this guy right here that has the ability to go into a neighborhood and look at some kids and say, cut it out. But because he didn't come home and do what I did, go to school for 10 years, he would be 86th out of that position. Because he doesn't have that degree, and the question that I'm asking myself is, how many black and brown lives do we have to lose? Because job description said he has to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. A credible messenger is an individual that can get the job done. So what happens in that is this. The person that was the young adult that was in the window watching me in the streets, shooting people, watching John, watching all the other guys whom are locked away, that person now becomes the credible messenger because he's gone away and got the college degree. And when he gets the job as the credible messenger because he was watching John and he was watching me and watching people like us, he gets the job as the credible messenger because he has the college degree. And when he gets on the street with the kids can see right through him. There ain't no ring no bells out here, homie. You can't squash no beef out here. Who are you? So that's the handicap that's going on under the auspices of credible messenger.
I probably ask questions like that.
So you've been in Jackson, what, going on 4 days now?
5. I've been here 5. I got 2 more.
5, okay. So could you talk about some of the things that your experience here for the 5 days? Why did you come and willing to stay a week instead of just coming in, doing the speech, and leaving? And what are some of the things that you have seen in Jackson that would assist in implementing the graphics program in the city?
You know, so when I met Donna in New York, one of the things that I told Donna when we sat down and we talked, first, you know, I've been everywhere. I've done all the university recognized talk shows and TV shows, and I got this email. Like, who is this lady? And they keep emailing me. I'm like, okay, if you want to interview me, it's going to cost you $250. Something like that.
And I said, no.
I'm not coming.
I don't do that.
And she just kept saying, you know, you want to come and speak to me. And we ended up sitting down at Dunkin' Donuts, and we ended up talking. And the first thing that moved me about Donna was that I didn't have to explain things to her 2 or 3 times. She got it. And the vibe that I got from her, she was really had a vested interest in what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'd only heard about Jackson, Mississippi because, you know, of Beckett Evers and Matilda. I'd only heard. But from Beaufort, South Carolina, and between Beaufort and New York, like Jackson, Mississippi, like, okay, I'll get around to getting there if I get there. And so I had the opportunity to come this morning and do the presentation and then get on the plane and fly right out. But I said, you know what? Change can't happen like that. Change can't happen like that. And so Donna and I sat down and I said, you know what? The first thing that I want you to do, I don't want you to believe anything that I'm telling you. I want you to travel with me. And while Donna was in New York, she came and she saw the graphics program in action, and she talked to some of my young homies up there that are gangbangers that are in the gang, and they was able to give her testimonies about what the program has done for them. I came down to Jackson and I said, you know what, I'm going to stay for a week. I would have stayed 2, but we have the Rikers Island contract starting Monday. I came down because I wanted to feel what's going on. I have the best of both worlds. I'm known in Harlem as the guy that took $50 and turned it into 22 kilos of cocaine and a partridge in a pear tree. I'm not proud of that. I sold hand grenades and dynamite and all that stuff, and I'm not proud of that. But when I came home from prison in 2002, and I enrolled in the college in 2003, and I stayed in college 10 years straight without a break. 10 years straight without a break, without one break. I graduated from Metropolitan College, New York, Rutgers, and Cornell. So I went from a prison cell to an Ivy League institution. I came to Jackson because the side of me that is still directly correlated to the streets said, go to, especially after I read this. When I read this, it was like anarchy going on down there. I had to come and I had to roll up my sleeves and get down in the trenches and look into the eyes of kids like Ziggy and these kids that Donna has here. We went to Delta, and we was in Greenwood. We went to drug treatment programs, and today we went to the Department of Corrections, and we went somewhere everywhere because I wanted to look in the eyes of the people that looked like me, that was in the situation that I was in just a few short years ago, and reinstill something that looked like hope. President Obama wrote a book, and he released it in the first part of his campaign called The Audacity of Hope. And when I looked in those black and brown men's eyes, those ex-offenders and those guys that are in the street trapping and doing what they're doing, I looked them in their face and I told them, you can't dream about being Obama. There's nothing about you that don't even fix your mind to dream about being anything that look like Obama. Because you have a felony, you can't get within 100 yards of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But guess what? with my 6 felonies and my 16 years of prison in 3 different states, I'm showing you that if I did it, you can do it. If I did it, you can do it. There is no excuses. So that's why I came to Jackson. I came to Jackson and I go to other places. I'm in the trap house. I'm in the gambling spot. I'm in the wherever they at. That's where I'm going, because my message is you're going to school, you're going to graduate, and you're not going to die on my watch. That's why I came to Jackson.
So as you know, like a lot of my reporting focuses on juvenile justice and like things that we can do to better help our kids. And it's a proven fact that about 2 million kids are locked up every year for, you know, I think 2/3 of them are done because are locked up because of status offenses, which are things that are like, you know, maybe like shoplifting or you know, skipping school. And so in being arrested, they miss a lot of, you know, time in classrooms, or you know, they're hanging out with other kids that are potentially more dangerous than they are. And so I was wondering, like, what do you think would be a better option for, you know, a kid who may not have been as violent until put in a place with, you know, kids who are. Because you have a program that's after school, and you have the programs that are, you know, giving them things to do with their free time. But what about the kids that are picked up? Like, what do we do to get them? I can't finish my question. You know, what can we do that to make sure that these kids are not being locked up for petty?
Right, so, and I think I kind of understand the question. See, first and foremost, you can't, I don't think that there's very much that we can do to prevent a child from being locked up, because a young adult can be walking down the street doing anything that kids from the hood do. It's at the discretion of the police officer whether he wants to lock this child up or not, or whether he wants to harass this child or not. Okay, but from the time, and I have some little notes here, from the time that I was in Jackson, that I've been in Jackson, I got 2 more days here, and I'm hoping that I can, somebody can shout out some restaurants we can go to and get some real food before I go back to Chinese restaurants and all that food. But you know, the problem is not, you know, from the lens that I'm looking through, I see the abandoned properties, and I see businesses has moved out of the neighborhood. And the problem, in my perspective, is not unemployment, it's not gangs, it's not violence, it's not education, it's not hunger. The problem is that the folk that love Jackson are looking at the glass as half empty. Walter Hawkins' family wrote a song called Be Thankful. The folk that love Jackson, the folk that have left Jackson, let them go. But the folk that are here in this room, and the people that are in Jackson that love Jackson, need to look at the glass as half full. And everybody in this room, first, everybody in this room need to provide some support around that dude right there, because I'm getting on the plane and I'm going home. This dude is here. He's here. Straight like that. Straight like that. John is here. Cassio is here. I'm going to be back and forth on the plane because I fell in love for the time that I was here. These brothers are here. Look at the glass as half full, and as you are looking at the glass as half full, how about doing something like this? How about accepting the responsibility of a black or brown child that look like you, that's not of your bloodline? Because see, everybody will get out in the street and go to war for theirs. But what happened to the village concept? What happened to take a village? What happened to being in the house before streetlights came on? What happened to... My program worked with these kids for 2 reasons. A, we ain't scared of them. We ain't scared of them. And B, we do for these kids what we wanted somebody to do for us when we were their age. That's it. So if everybody in this room, especially if the data in this thing right here is true, you're talking about 225 kids according to them, if everybody in this room decide that they want to provide a tad bit of support to one of these broken and disconnected or disadvantaged kids in Jackson, Mississippi, you will see change looking like next week. Look at the glass as half full. I don't like the word community policing. I don't like the word because it's so great. But watch this. Watch this. And yeah, you heard it from me, because this is the way I talk when I'm in the city. When a kid gets shot in the neighborhood, somebody in that hood know where that dude is hiding at that shot that kid. Somebody in the hood know where the gun's at. Somebody in the hood know where the trap house at. Somebody, we know. So let's act like we know. We don't have to put law enforcement in our business. Call that dude right there. He'd be glad to come. Call his brother right here. They'll be glad to come. But they're not going to come to help you if you're not trying to help yourself.
I want to add something to that question. Some of the things that we talked about there, some of the changes when it comes to the young people that may not be violent but still have some issues, may get suspended or expelled from school. One thing that we have to do, and with my project, we work with 3 different school districts, and we're looking at changing certain policies in the school district that prevent young people from being expelled or suspended. For example, we have a zero tolerance policy, right? We say, okay, we should have 0, but this is the thing, we have 0 tolerance for the people who need all the tolerance in the world, right? We have 0 tolerance for young people, but young people in a position, so 0 tolerance look like this. If you bring a sharp pencil to school or a knife to school, you have the same consequences, right? So if I stab someone with a pencil, or if I shoot someone, guess what? It's the same consequences. And also in some of our policies, we have disrespect as a suspendable expense, right? And we know disrespect, the line is, so with me, if I'm in the classroom, I'm a young teacher. Disrespect to me looks totally different from an elder, right? So I think some of the policies that we have in the school system, and even in the community, we have to look at those policies and we have to redesign those policies that it fits the young people that we want. And so we say that another part of that is we have a lot of young people who's coming to school hungry, who's coming to school who don't have their parents at home. And so we have young people, if I'm hungry, there's nothing that a teacher can tell me while I'm in that class. Because all my concern is, look, woman, you don't hear my stomach? Think about it, you'd have been at work. How many of us have been at work? Adults, right? And it's 1 o'clock, we haven't eaten lunch yet. And the one thing that we say, I wish somebody would say something to me right now. Right? So imagine a child coming to school at 6. So some of our kids, we also got to understand, some of our kids are leaving their home at 6 o'clock in the morning. And being at school all day, and let's be honest, how many of y'all have went to the school during lunchtime to eat lunch with your child, and you looked at the lunch and you said, I'm not going to eat that? Right? So some of our children are not eating. So there are some things that's going on before they even get to the school that cause our young people to be in situations where they are angry. And so we have to look at some policies that are set aside in our school and in our community that automatically pushes, particularly young men and boys of color, into the detention center, to be around those other violent young people that necessarily, those young people who never been in the community that is violent.
Let me just add one thing, especially to Maya's point about these low-level offenses sending kids into the criminal justice system. It's really important to understand that the research is just, at this point, it's irrefutable that the more times that a young person has contact with the criminal justice system, the more likely they are to commit a worse crime. And after everything we're doing this year on this Preventing Violence series, if we could just get that through the heads of most of our community, I think we would be better off, because we've got all of this kind of hysteria and fear about crime, and And I get it. I mean, we all, you know, we fear crime, but the point is, if we're supporting the kinds of policies, particularly with lower level offenses, right? The kinds of policies that are actually going to get kids sent into these systems and into juvenile detention and all these other things, and then they're going to come out more likely to commit worse crime, then that's not very smart. And even if all we care about is the safety of the community, instead of these 225, give or take, you know, young people. And I happen to care about those young people, and one of my goals in this is that I think that we have to really think about what Kai talks about with wraparound services, that we can actually get to a lot of young people before they get into something worse, with something other than police intervention. But that we've got to all put our heads together to figure out how to not have holes in that net, and to decide that we really, like you're talking about, the glass has got to be half full. We're not a huge city. I mean, it's a relatively low number of young people that are at risk of the worst crime. So let's do something about that. So one of the things I want to challenge y'all when you get into your comments or your questions is what is it you can contribute to those ideas?
Yeah, let me share this. Let me say this. From the perspective of someone that has been on both sides of the line, incarceration is not the answer. Let me say that again. Incarceration is not the solution. It's not the answer. It's a part of a solution, but it's not the solution. All eyes on me, watch this. Do I believe that some folks deserve to go to jail? Absolutely. Do I believe that some people need to be in jail? Absolutely. Do I believe that some folk that look like me need to be in jail? Absolutely. Did I need to go to jail 16 years ago? Absolutely. If I didn't go to jail 16 years ago, I'd be dead right now. The solution, I feel like, Graphic Service is a little more than 4,000 kids. I am sitting here before you today, qualified to share my advice with you, to share my opinion with you, based on my level of education. What differentiates me from the motivational speaker stands up and sensationalizes the game, the life, and then at the end will say about 3 words and don't try to be like me. The difference between what we do and what motivational speakers do, we have a workbook and we have a textbook, and it's something that we've taken the majority of the components of the street life, we've curriculumized it, we've put it in middle schools. For the past 6 years, we've been in middle schools and high schools in one of the toughest cities in the nation, and it's offered to kids as a 2-credit elective. How not to be a gangbanger, how not to be a drug dealer, how not to be a stick-up kid, and it's offered to kids as a 2-credit elective. What incarceration does is this. I met my father on Rikers Island when I was in the cell on my way to prison. He was coming home. I bumped into him in the cell. He walked up to me and he kicked my foot. I jumped up, I was going to cut him with a razor. He said, "Your mother named Frida?" I was like, "Oh." I'm like, "What you going to tell me? Tell me." So incarceration, that's what incarceration does. When you take a child, keep in mind, a few moments ago, I mentioned Barack Obama's book, The Audacity of Hope. When you have black and brown children in broken communities that are underfunded, under-resourced, they are placed in a situation of hopelessness and desperation. Let me just share with you, and I hope I can keep myself on target, but let me just share with you how hard this team has worked to keep a child away from feeling hopeless. That guy right there in that green shirt, and the people on this panel, and Todd, some of the other folks in this room, we have, since in the 5 days that I've been here, we have been working so hard to try to get that little boy right there, ID card. Right, stand up, Zeke. We've been trying so hard to get him an ID card so he can get a job, so he can cash a check. So if the police walk up on him, he has some way to identify himself to keep himself from getting locked up. We have been fighting so hard to try to get him an ID card. But it's just the fact that he's around John and he's around people like this that he's not getting discouraged. But ask yourself, how many other people live in the brown bottom that can't get a $7 ID card that is just giving up on all hope? I'm like, you know what? I'm going back to the block. The hell with it. Just something as simple as that. Something as simple as that, you know? So incarceration is not the answer. What looks like the solution to me is something that these kids can't get rid of. You can get your high school diploma, you can get an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree, and once they give it to you in that little piece of paper, and you put it in the frame, and you put it on the wall behind you, even if the building burned down, you write to the state attorney, you get another one, put it right. But if you hustle, and you get $200,000, and you put it in the house because you can't put it in the bank, and the house burned down, guess what? You got to start over. It's not the answer. Incarceration is not the answer. Programming is the answer, but effective programming is the answer. If communities are going to take your tax dollars, think about how hard you work for your little couple dollars. If they're going to take your tax dollars and award it to programs to help these kids, don't allow funders to give your tax dollars to programs under the auspice that they're going to help these kids, and then you see that the kids are not being helped. Hold these people accountable for your money. The same way if you go in Walmart, or the same way if you go in Burger King, and you ask them for a burger, you tell them not to put no onions on it, and you get in the car, and there's onions on it, you're going to drive down the block, turn around, and you're going to go back, you're going to say, I thought I told you not to put onions on his hamburger, you know how much I paid for this hamburger? That's the same thing you have to do when it comes to the funding and the lives of these kids. Hold these people accountable for your little couple of dollars, because it's your money, and these are your kids.
My biggest concern, one of my questions was, in changing policies and in implementing new programs and new strategies to keeping kids out of the system, how are we going to overcome that like inherent distrust in police officers and judges?
Good question.
You know, like, because, you know, how are we going to deal with that?
Very good question. So watch this, right? I noticed something in the 5 days that I've been in Jackson. I think if not the first incident that started the whole Black Lives Matter campaign, I know Eric Garner's situation played a significant role in it, and that's New York. And so with the recent incidents that have just occurred, and it popped off when I was on the way coming down here. You know the one thing that I noticed about Jackson? Jackson, Mississippi in general. When Mississippi people look at the Black Lives Matter campaign and you see 1,000 people laying in the street and protesting and doing all this other stuff, in my mind, I was saying Mississippi people need to be the first on the line, because what blacks and Hispanics have been experiencing across the country, it seems like Mississippi been experiencing that for the last 50, 60, 70 years, but that's not the case. Because I don't see 1,000 people outside laying in the street. I don't see that. So Mississippi has the opportunity to put something in place that can be replicated around the nation. Okay? When it comes to police officers and kids that look like me, a lot of folk in this room that look like me, they ain't gonna like what I'm getting ready to say, but I don't care. I'll fight all y'all. Just stand upstairs and I'll fight all y'all. One at a time. Watch this.
One at a time.
One at a time. Watch this. So look, watch this, man. Watch this. People that look like me in this room, watch this, and I hope somebody asks this question. Watch this. Why is it that we have this irresistible compulsion to be tough? Why is it that when law enforcement walk up to us, we have this irresistible compulsion to be tough? That is not the time to be tough. How many situations do we have to see? And I'm not even talking about a Caucasian officer killing a black. I'm not even talking, we're talking about law enforcement in general. We're talking about people in general. Why is it that we have this irresistible compulsion to be tough? Kids that look like me are standing on the street corner. I got you, John. Kids like me are standing on the street corner, and it's like, okay, when the police come, yo, here they go again, man. Yo, why you always bothering us? Why you always messing with us? Somebody in that group has to mouth off. But guess why they bothering you? I was one of those dudes. Guess why they bothering us? Because every day when they ride by, they see you doing a whole bunch of nothing, standing there doing a whole bunch of nothing. I have something called Dr. Kai's 15 keys, 15 steps to social and professional empowerment for young adults. And a couple of steps in that says, how about find something to do with your time? Young adults are in this room. When I coach my kids, I tell my kids, like John tell his kids, when I go in the house, you go in the house. When you wake up in the morning, you ain't got nothing to do, let's sit down and find you something to do. You don't have nothing to do, kids wake up every day and they go to Youth Media Project. You don't have nothing to do, there's all kinds of folks in this room right now that have a job. Find you some place to go volunteer. Find you something to do with your time. Find something to do other than being in the hood doing a whole bunch of nothing. If you are actively engaged doing something, you can't be actively engaged in somebody's jail cell. And that's the God's honest truth. I'm not telling you to do anything that I did not do, that I have not done. Keep in mind, folks, I've not always been Dr. Kai. I've sold hand grenades. I've sold sticks of dynamite. I've shot people. I've done the worst of the absolute worst. And getting the number 6 on that list of kingpins in New York. I've done the worst of the worst. But in this transition right here, and it may not be for everybody, but in this transition right here, guess what? The first thing that I decided not to do, was remove myself off of the general description of the person that committed the crime. We have a crime in process. What's the description? African American, 6 foot tall, black sweater, black blue jeans, black sneakers, and all. You know what? I think I may have 2 things in my wardrobe that's black, taking myself right off that list. So when they come through, guess who they ain't coming to bother? They ain't coming to bother me, because I got khakis on. They ain't coming to bother, but you understand what I'm saying? I have 6 felonies and I can't afford it. I can't afford it. So, and it's a number of variables that can go into that. But we have to start thinking differently about this whole thing with police brutality and all this other stuff. Like, I'm not the marching dude. I don't march because when we get to the end of the march, don't nobody know what we're going to do. We're not going to have no goals. Martin Luther King didn't march like that. When he got to the end of the march, everybody had a responsibility. That's how we got the civil rights movement and all that. Today's marches, when you get to the end, some people tell you to sell t-shirts and water. Somebody going to the club, they going to the liquor store. I don't march. I don't do that. I create a different environment for my kids. And from 2003 to today, we've only had 1 fatality. 1, because my kids think and they process information differently. So when it comes to police and how they treat our kids, everybody has an opinion, and everybody's opinion is maybe 60, 70% right. But until we think about what's happening to us, and we think about ways to change the narrative of what's happening to us, then it's going to stop happening to us. But how many times do we have to turn the TV on to see the same thing is happening? Guess what? With these 2 incidents, I guarantee you in about 7 to 8 months, we're going to get another incident. So it comes down to us. It comes down to us. Why are we holding other people accountable for doing things to us when we can put our feet on the path in the direction of a solution for us? And that's the God's honest truth, man. I've done it. I've done it with my kids.
I'm gonna get some pushback on that.
Absolutely, I love that.
Historically, we don't trust the police because we got a reason not to trust the police.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like historically.
Absolutely.
Like let's just be honest.
Okay.
Because of things that has happened to our community, and I'm not just talking about white cops, we're talking about black cops. Because sometimes my young people, then they were going to black cop roll up on them, they treat them sometimes worse than a white cop.
Absolutely, okay.
All right. So historically, when it comes to policies, there are some internal distrust from black and brown communities because of how judges and cops have treated the community.
Okay.
Another thing I will speak on when it comes to now, I do agree that there are some things that we can do as a community, but also we shouldn't be asking young people to find things to do for themselves. We're in a city, we have 175,000 people, give or take a few. Now, we have a city, how many youth programs and how many employment programs do we actually have for young people? How many programs do we actually have that, how many places in our neighborhoods? Now, the city of Jackson have how many community centers? I think in every neighborhood we have a community center. But when I ride by those community centers, mayor, city councilmen, there's no programs going on. So even if we got young, so what we got going on in Jackson is that even if young people want to find something to do, they can't. Because we're asking them to do something that is actually the people who have the resources have not, and the people who we have elected to be in those positions have not taken the time out, because some of those young people who cannot vote, well, if they cannot vote, well, guess what? If I'm running for mayor next year, guess what? It really doesn't matter, because I don't have to worry about their vote anyway. So we can't ask young people, so we can't ask young people to start doing things for themselves when we're not providing them the resources to be able to do that.
Watch this, and I appreciate that, but now watch this. I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into voting. I don't want to, because everything that I've done for graphics, I've done in the absence of political figures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to get into that. But what I'm talking about comes down to this. I read something, and this bow tie, I keep saying bow ties. I read something in this thing right here. This thing is all highlighted. I really got into this. And this thing said, I'm trying to quote this close to verbatim as I said, it said, Caucasian Americans, Caucasian Mississippians in Jackson feel like that they should not be held accountable for mistakes that have been made 50, 60, 70 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. Watch this. Because I'm the kind of person that look through a lens and I think outside of the box, as soon as I read that in the notes that I wrote on the side, my response was this. Well, maybe Caucasian Americans, if that's true and if they feel that way, maybe Caucasian Americans in Jackson, Mississippi should get more visible in their support of those individuals from those communities. Now, it's a beautiful thing if you're financially stable enough to write a check for the Kellogg Foundation and write a check for the Rockefeller Foundation and all these other. It's a beautiful thing if you're financially in the position to do that. But in response to that statement, here is something that I know, because let me just share something with y'all in case y'all didn't realize this. I'm black. Now that we got that out of the way, watch this. I know something about my people. And I know something about getting to the level in the drug game that some of these kids aspire to grow. And I know something about education because I have probably just as much education as some of the folks in here. So I got a little bit of what's called the best of both worlds. If we're talking about, and I met with some people from the school board, and I met with some pretty interesting folks since I've been here. And let me draw a picture for you. If I had the opportunity to go into a school in Jackson, 25 kids, the first thing that I would do, wraparound services. What does that look like? It looks like this. If I'm working with 25 kids, I am going to ask 25 individuals or 50 individuals who are gainfully employed, and I'm not talking about asking you for your money. I'm going to ask those individuals to go into your phone contact and get me an opportunity for one of my kids. Put the ball back in my court. So if I come to you, African American, Mississippian, Caucasian Mississippian, whoever you are, Hispanic Mississippian, and I say, I have 25 kids. John Knight got 25 kids. Cassio got 25 kids. Here's what we need. Here's what we want. Because I understand, it's community centers, and when you push, elected officials don't go, there's no funding there, and all this other, I've heard all of the excuses in the world. I'm talking about getting on the ground and doing some stuff and eliminating as many excuses as we can. Because at the end of the day, the more we come up with excuses, the more kids that look like me are dead on the street with their brains on the sidewalk. I'm trying to avoid that. So if I can get 25 or 30 individuals whom have jobs, whom are in positions of authority, do me a favor. I need 25 internship opportunities. I need 25 opportunities for me to take back to my kids. So now I can say to one of my kids, y'all got to excuse me, look here, man. I bust my behind to get this opportunity for you, man. These people are going to let you come and you're going to volunteer there 2 days a week. I need you to go because I've seen that dude right there do it. I've seen him do it. I've seen him do it. I've seen this guy do it. I'm going to get, here's this opportunity. But now what that does for this kid is this, and I'm telling you what I did when I came home from prison. Going to the welfare and waking up and saying, you know what? I have to put myself in a better position than the other individuals that's applying for this job. When I get to the job interview, there's this many people applying for one job. But you know why I get the job? I get the job because Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I was volunteering for a community-based organization, and that community-based organization, or that job that you got, 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 may not have the funding to hire me, but what they do have is a letterhead that they can put a reference on that speaks to my professional character. And when I go to the next job interview, who can hire, what's going to differentiate me from the other individuals in the room is I'm sitting there and I got 3 organizations that's speaking to my professional character, and that employer is going to say, you know what, who's the best candidate? The best candidate is the person that's sitting out there with other individuals that's speaking to his character. Employers don't give people jobs because they're sorry for them. They give people jobs because they qualify for them. So I'm not talking about, I don't want to get into politics, and I don't want to get into that because everybody got some pushback when it comes to that. It's money, it's all kinds of stuff going on. I'm talking about some stuff that at the end of this segment, when we go and sit down and eat cheese and all of that, I can walk up to a person and I can say, this is John Knight and this is such and such and such. Excuse me, ma'am, do you work, can you provide, I got this kid right here, is it remotely possible that you can 2 days a week, just let him come around and teach him how to use the fax machine, and teach him how to use the photocopier, because he in the hood all day, he don't know nothing about that. I guarantee you he's gonna come. And that is putting your feet on the path in the direction of something that looks like change. The hell is all these excuses for? Because if we don't do it, guess what? 3 out of 10 gonna get killed for years old. What about if you get that knock on the door saying it's your child?
So, we're gonna go to questions, but I have a lot to say, but we're gonna open the floor up for questions right now. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm the director of an organization called Arts Classicals, a West Jackson organization with the sole purpose of giving our young people an alternative to violence through the arts.
Yes, ma'am.
I can sincerely appreciate everything that you've said. And our community, the rules and regulations and laws have been made around normal human development. It's in the DNA for you to be a warrior. That's why it's so difficult in the Black community for most of us, because the laws are made around normal human development, which doesn't apply to anybody but us mostly. And I would like for you to expound on, well, identity. That's one thing that I think should be at the top of the list when it comes to dealing with our community. Most of us have no knowledge of who we are. We have hair down to here. That's not ours. So, and like it has been said, that if you can always tell what a community is about by what the women are doing. So we have real issues in our community. Lack of sleep. We need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Too much television. Basic things. And for young people, iron deficiency, poor nutrition. When you're iron deficient, naturally you're going to make very poor decisions. That's incorporated with what? Puberty. They're normal. Our boys and girls are normal. And to bristle up at the police is not so abnormal for people in that, young people in that type of situation. So please expound on that, on what you are when you're in exposure is definitely the best thing in the world, and along with understanding. Exposure is definitely wonderful. And I'm one of these children that you're talking about in an indirect and a direct way.
Okay. I mean, you know, I think, you know, the question in there that she was asking, see, for me, I'm not in the time that I've been doing this, there was a significant number of years that I was focused on the problem. I no longer focus on the problem because I'm not afraid of failure. Let me read something to you real quick. My focus is this now. This thing says, do you know that most people did not succeed, not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit? I don't have an answer to everything, but watch this. If we're talking about identity, and if we're talking about what we see in communities where we come from, and if we're talking about image, the image that our young girls and our young boys see probably comes from because they spend too much time in front of the television. But guess what? Guess what I know about the South? Guess what I know about the South? I know that I'm 47 years old and I'm one of the only men in New York that say yes ma'am and no sir. That's the South. That's the South. So if we take stock in ourselves and the women in this room stand up, like we always talking about men stand up, if the women stand up and say, you know what, in that community center, we're going, or in the church, or we're going to start a program to teach about, you know, to etiquette or something like, please, like, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try. It is very easy for us, and I'm not saying that you're casting blame, I'm not saying that it is very easy for us to sit back and think about and talk about what somebody else is not doing. But watch this, if we step up and we say, you know what, I'm not one of those people with the hair all the way down the head and the green contacts and all this other stuff. Let me find 3 or 4 more people that look like me and do something for the 2 or 3 girls in the neighborhood that want to be a part of this, as opposed to saying everybody in the neighborhood is doing this, because everybody in the neighborhood is not doing it. Be the change that you want to see in somebody else, because I guarantee you, if you start to do it, more and more people in their household that keep their kids in the house, that don't want their kids to be associated with certain foolishness, they're going to say, you know what, you can get with that program right there because they're doing something. And before you know it, your attendance sheet is going to start getting filled. See, I'm not afraid to fail, so I'm always trying to think about something creative or something innovative that can be done to push it in the right direction. Is that sufficient, ma'am? I'm sorry, like, is that sufficient? I mean, we can talk about it a little later on. I'm here for 2 more days. I'll be more than happy to.
It's a very hot and
Yes, ma'am.
sensitive subject.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're certified to serve all 82 counties in the state of Mississippi with the arts.
Yes, ma'am. We talk about this. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, for being here. First of all, I want to kind of flip the script in terms of asking questions. I want to ask the questions of the people on the panel with you. Thank you all for inviting Dr. Smith. I appreciate the insight I gave from the beginning. So for the other 3 panelists, I'm really curious, based on your knowledge and experience of Dr. Smith's program, what you are most excited about, or where you see the greatest possibility in terms of implementation here, either in specific things or general principles. In my context for asking that question is a lot of the great reporting and writing you all have been doing, kind of highlighting the reality where we are, that embraces both cultural differences, between Mississippi and New York, but I'm really curious where you all see the greatest opportunities for implementation for us.
I actually was in New York about 3 weeks ago, and I visited one of his programs, and it was very interesting because in a class of about 12 kids, he offered them an opportunity to actually voice their own opinions about some sensitive subjects that we think kids are too, they're kids. So you think that they don't know anything about LGBT, or they don't know anything about police brutality, or they don't know anything about religion. I'm only 22, I'll be 23 in a month, and so I look good.
I thought you was 16.
And so, And I feel like one of the things that annoyed me a lot when I was growing up was that people thought that kids were too dumb to understand some things. And so actually sitting and talking to the kids and giving them a chance to actually flesh out their opinions, have an individual thought. I'm guessing tying back into your identity, your having an identity, being your own person and backing up your own, like backing up your beliefs, because you know, who else is going to listen to them? So I actually majored in psychology. So from a psychological standpoint, like being able to fully present yourself the way that you want to be presented, he gives kids an opportunity to do that, which is something that helps kids form into, you know, opinionated, critical thinking adults. So that's what I would, yeah.
I think even though Kai and I we've been hanging out for the last 4 days, right? And we've been having beef in the car talking about certain ideologies. So don't think this is just on the stage. This has been going on for the last couple of days. I'm like, homie, nah, man, we can't roll like that, right? So don't think. One thing that I have, and when Donna called me and said, hey, you know, I have this guy. You know, he's from New York, you know, he's from Mississippi. When people say somebody from New York, you already get like, nah, I ain't trying to. I done been to New York before, I know New York people, you know, I'm like, nah, I ain't trying to. So I was like, okay. I said, I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him before he even get to Mississippi. Because if I can talk to him before he get to Mississippi, I was going to call Donna like, nah, you don't need to bring him here, right? That's what I was going to do, guy. But as we talked, and we've been together for the last 4 days, and I even got a chance to take him through the Delta and to visit M.A.N Museum and the site of M.A.N. One thing that I appreciate about the program and about him, he didn't come in and say, hey, I have the solution for Jackson, Mississippi. It wasn't, I have the solution. I want to come to Jackson to see what's going on, and I want to tailor a program for the school system and for the jail system that we're going to be working in. So I think, and I'm a direct service person, right? And I think no program should be a cookie-cutter approach. And I think the one thing that I appreciate about the program is not a cookie-cutter approach. We're looking at developing a program, working with John Knight, myself, and Kai to develop a program, and for us to just give him knowledge about the community so the program can be developed to fit Jackson.
I should probably say that I first of all, I haven't endorsed his program, and you know, because I'm a journalist, and so just to kind of make that clear, I met Kai because he was on a list of people who were in what's called an Operation Ceasefire, and I've written some about that without going into it, but it's essentially a policing thing where they threaten, they bring in young men that they believe are maybe connected to a crime coming up, and they threaten them, and then they supposedly offer them services. Sometimes they're more stick than carrot. Anyway, so I knew that Kai was on that list, and so I reached out to him, as well as some other people, when I was in New York a few weeks ago as part of this project. And so I went to see Kai, and I was really intent on meeting one of the young people who were in that call-in, as they call it, to see what that experience is like. So that's kind of the backstory. Well, he invited me to go to this place in Queens, in an area I'd never been, and it was great. But to meet some young men, particularly one of the young men who had been in this call-in, because I really wanted to talk to him about that, turned into a whole day of hanging out out there and being around a lot of young men who were in this kind of alternative juvenile detention program that's nothing like we think of juvenile detention here. And, you know, I had a lot of conversations with Kai, and really the reason I wanted to bring him here to speak is because I really liked his energy. And I like this idea that the glass is half full, because I think in Mississippi, we forget that. And there are all kinds of reasons for that, right? But, you know, when I told Kai about the BOTAC report, and again, whether or not it's incredibly motivational to read this report, to me. There's some people who don't like what's in it, but that's it's still motivational. And they talk about 225, they come up with, young people in JPS who are at the highest risk of committing violent crime. That tracks with the study, with the research around the country, that it's actually a very small percentage in any community. Right, and they tend to commit a lot of crimes over and over again. When I said to Guy that there are 225, he's like, I deal with 225 in a day. And so what I'm saying here is that what I want to see happen is that people believe that we can help those 225. And I want to find everybody who believes that and get them around a table and figure out how we do that. Because what I've observed through the reporting and other things is that a whole lot of people give up on the 225. They're trying to help the younger ones, they're trying to help the older ones, they're trying to help the kids who aren't as in bad of a situation, haven't been arrested multiple times, and all those other things, and the cycle continues. Right? So what I liked about what I saw there, and this one young man, when I finally met him, just blew me away, and I really hope that Sean gets to come down here at some point and be sitting up here with us, because he's incredible. And he was arrested for armed robbery in, I think, November. So he's in it, right? But that we can, you know, you don't have to agree with everything Kai, I don't agree with everything Kai says, you know, and he and I, you know, push back on each other and all this stuff, but that's kind of where it's at, right? It's the critical thinking that is up in that. And I also believe you can hold more than one thought at once. So I can sit up here and be real pissed about police brutality and about white people not stepping up, and don't get me started. I can be really mad about that. At the same time, I can really appreciate what he's saying, too. And you know, and he didn't like police brutality either. I mean, I know that, but no, I know. So he's not saying that. You know, he's bringing different ideas to the table. And anybody who does that, I think, needs to be at the table, and especially somebody with his level of experience in the system. He knows why he got there in the first place. He knows what was missing. He knows what he didn't have. And so those are the things I'm really interested in. I'm not endorsing the program. I actually haven't seen him in the classroom itself, other than what y'all have seen. I've just talked to him. I've talked to young people. And I like that energy, y'all, because we've got to get that energy and believe that we can do something. And so that's why I brought him here.
And I will add this. Part of my program with M.A.N is our job is to find best practices for our young people. And one thing, like I say, nobody's endorsing a program, but I do feel it can be a best practice when it comes to working with young people.
Okay, so we're going to go speed round so we can get some folks out of here. John's got a comment quick, and then I'll move over there. Does anybody else have a question that they're burning to ask? Okay, we'll get you out of here in a minute. We'll ask one more question.
Well, Kai, you know me, you can keep Cassio, to me, the situation we have here in Jackson is totally different.
Wait, tell them who you are and what you do. Tell them who you are and what you do. For real, tell them who you are and what you do.
I'm John Knight. I'm the director of Jackson Cares Incorporated, and also the founder of the Undivided Peace Movement. I'm from West Jackson, Washington Dictionary. And Lazika is one of my proteges that I be with and helping and everything. But what I want to tell you guys is that the situation here in Jackson, it's not something that's so hard to handle or so gone that Jackson just over with. It's just not enough people care, man.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm a 3-time convicted felon. Been in prison 3 times. My son, 17 years old, a basketball star, great kid. haven't smoked weed, haven't stole cars, haven't done anything. He had all the choices, all the chances to make those bad choices while I was gone to prison those 3 times. When my wife held him down, she taught him the same culture that a woman like we're speaking of, ma'am, supposed to. Now her hair is long down to her back, but she is a true black Nubian queen. This lady right here, Miss Tasha Knight, and she has taught me how to be the man that I am today, not the system. Because the system didn't do nothing to teach me how to be a smooth criminal. Because they don't have rehabilitation programs in there. Absolutely. You took it upon yourself to get in there and master the art of prison life, and to come home and master the art of being in prison and come back to give back. And that's what I try so hard to do here in the city of Jackson. But a lot of people look at the way I'm built, the way I'm dressed, the tattoos, the slang I talk, but that's how I get to people like Zeke that used to be homeless a couple months ago. And people walk and ride right past him and don't care. That's a kid. That's somebody's child. And we do that too much and too often here in Jackson. Not just the Caucasian people, because to be honest with you, it's more Caucasian people here in Jackson that ride than our own people, because they feel like that ain't got nothing to do with me. That ain't my child. That ain't nothing to do. You know, if we got too many excuses to not to care about each other. And if we can get everybody in here to tell 2, 3 people to start caring and really want to help and get out. I don't ask nobody for no money. I don't ask the city, I don't ask nobody for nothing. What I do for them boys and my neighbors, about 11 of them, I do it out of my pocket. Me and a couple more of my homeboys from my hood that care. And that's what we need, people that care, man. And the police here, they need to find a training course for them, for people skills. See, that's the problem with our system here. Soon as they see little Zeke, because his pants might not be up to his neighbor, he's not a 90-year-old man. I don't wear my pants up like that. They stereotype us and they jump out and grab these kids, or jump out with their guns. Of course, they're going to get aggressive. I do it, and I'm 39 years old, and I know I ain't doing nothing wrong. You know, they can pull you over for your license and insurance and talk crazy to you. Fight this, fight that. And we have been so oppressed, not by the white people. Y'all ain't got nothing to do with 400 years.
Y'all have, yeah.
None of y'all ain't. None of the ones I take the church at. You know what I'm saying? But we've been oppressed by our own people, man. Our own kind, the ones that sit behind the desk. See, like y'all, I'm not talking about y'all, but people that sit behind the desk that always make the statistics and go through and say who gonna be this and who not, they're the ones that oppress us. Because they don't believe in us themselves. Because they just forgot who they are and where they came from. See, we got to get back to knowing who we are, who we originally were, as man and woman, black, brown, white, whatever color you are, we all the same people. We all have the same cause on earth, to live happily amongst each other. But if we shun each other all the time and look for the problems, or he's an ex-felon, he's an ex-drug lord, he's an ex-gang, so what? My hood loved me. The murderer walked through and asked questions about me, and they all told him good feedback. I haven't heard back from him. I guess he thought he was going to hear something bad. You know what I'm saying? But when you really have the connection with your neighborhood, like Brother Kai and myself, all we need is good, God-fearing people like y'all to back us. Any money that's given to non-profit organizations or to certain organizations, it should be handled. You should just know you gave it to the kids. See, when we do jobs, somebody will give us some money, give it to them boys. You ain't gotta give it to me. Give it to my wife. She ain't going to jail. So she ain't gonna misappropriate no funds. You know what I'm saying? But we have to learn to listen to people at times. Sometimes all I have to do is listen to some of the kids and I still. I'll stop by. I was in my son's practice and a guy called me on the phone. I cut his practice shop because he said he had some young guys that call themselves from gangs. I let him sit in so he could listen to me talk to me. And I asked him, what you be? What kind of gangster are you? What kind of wives? They didn't know anything, bro. One of them let some more boys trick him and beat him up. Tell him you ain't this no more, and he never was. And I was telling him, and they all play football, they all play sports, and it really touched my heart. You know what I'm saying? I told the dude, get all their daddies, like their mama, wherever they give my number. And those are gonna be some more guys that I'm gonna be dealing with. You know, because that's what I do. I go out, I don't wait till nobody come find me. So I'm going out to the detention center and my son, he did this. I want to catch them before they get there. You know what I'm saying? I don't go, I ain't never been here. I got lots, I've been trying to find this since 545. And I'm from Jackson. I've been all around, ex-security guards, you know, because I have never been the type of person that was allowed in Millsaps from the eyes of society, if y'all understand what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So, don't look at people, how they look or how they dress, and think that they're ignorant. I think that that's a common dog. That's how they look at me because of my tattoos. But I'm an athlete, so that's why I got my tattoos. All my tattoos, they come from prison. That's what people think. A young lady seen me one that told me, you look like you fresh out of prison. I was assaulted. I really was, you know, like, how they look, you know what I'm saying? So I ain't gonna hold the mic too long because I can talk all day.
So, would y'all come back if we have John back and have him up here? Okay, we'll do that.
So real quick, before we move to the next question, I want to do something real quick. So for folks here in Jackson, Mississippi, when I leave here, I want you guys to put some support around John, and I want you guys to put some support around Cassio, and it's gonna start with me. It's gonna start with me. So what I did was, I came down here and I bought 85 t-shirts that say graphics undivided. That's John's program. So you guys get some support on John and his kids. I started the ball rolling, man. I'm gonna need for you guys to help John with those kids, because some of these kids really need some people like John in their lives.
We have two more. All right. Good evening. Brother Smith,
yes,
I've had the opportunity to talk to you on the phone.
Yes, sir.
Donna linked us together in an email. She actually spoke of you. Donna, we were at a dinner gathering months and months ago when she was speaking of you. So, Shokwe Antar, pleasure to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John, for your words. I'd like to say this. First of all, what I appreciate is having a discussion concerning holistic solutions to crime. We far too often get into discussions of crime and how we address that, and it's, you know, we need more police. We need more police. It's, you know, about morale and all of those things, and those things have impact, right? However, if you don't do anything to address the circumstances or conditions which led that person to be on that block, right, then you can't out-police crime. Right? You can't out-police crime. And so what y'all are talking about are holistic solutions, programmatic solutions to how we address crime. The question or the direction that I'd like to see addressed, if we could, is bringing into the forefront some of the more macro thinking on this particular issue. And that's with regard to our dependence on this criminal justice system. First of all, I'd like to say one thing that I certainly appreciate you saying is that incarceration is not the solution.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give you a statistic that if you just thought about it, it makes all the sense in the world, right? We have more police in this country than any country in the world. We have more people incarcerated than any country in the world, yet we have more crime than any country in the world. So if incarceration was the solution, we'd have the lowest crime rates in the world, right? So let's think about that, right? The problem that we now fall into is that as we've seen different industries fail in this country, we've seen the auto industry take its decline. We've seen, you know, all kinds of industries going up, the banking industry go up and down, right? We've grown to be far too dependent on the criminal justice system. They say crime doesn't pay, but crime pays very well. Right? Look at all of the people who are employed by crime.
Yes.
You have the lawyers, right? You have the judges, right? You have the police. You have more police today than we've ever seen in history. You have your city police. You have your county police. You have your state police. You have your federal police. You have your secret police. You have your secret police who watch the secret police, right? Right? And so if crime were to stop tomorrow, our economy would crash, right? And so we have to think about that dependence, because one of the fundamental elements to keep that system running is the over-criminalization of society.
That's what deals with, that's how we get into the effects of that system, is the tension that grows between police and the community, right? Is because we're over-policing, over-criminalizing, we're creating that tension because we're dependent upon it. We have jails that literally have quotas. They have 90% quotas in order to get their funding. They have to have people in there. They have to have those bodies, right? And so we have to address that, and I think we have to not only, and I agree with the solutions in terms of the programmatic solutions and how we address these kids when we meet them and head on, right? But we have to push back at the systemic issues as well, right? Because if we don't do that, then they'll find another avenue to get our children in that same system.
And before we move to the next question, Brother Chokwe, it's definitely a pleasure to meet you from a distance. We're going to put our heads together after this thing is over. But, you know, and to tag along to right with what the brother said, that's part of the reason why graphics, as I said, when you looked at the slide, as you looked at the PowerPoint presentation, our focus is education and entrepreneurialism. Education and entrepreneurialism. Education is the only thing that we are a society of people that have this tremendous lack of appreciation for education. It's just mind-boggling how we just have allowed the young adults in our community to just get away with zero appreciation for education. So when we think about changing policies, and I don't want to get into politics, when we talk about changing policies and changing the moral fiber of what's going on, why individuals are incarcerated and all those things, it comes down to us helping reinstill the value of education in those little 12 and 13 and 15 and 14-year-olds and all of that. Because each one of those kids deserve to walk on the same college campus that the president did. Each one of those kids, you got some MIT, and you got some Wharton, and you got some all that right there in that row right there. You got some Oxford, and you got some Rhodes Scholars, and all that right there. But if we, I'm going to say this, and some folks ain't going to like it, but it's my personal belief that if a child like them cannot be whoever they want to be, it's at the fault of one of us rusty-ass adults. Because if we got together and we pushed them the way that we're supposed to push them, each one of them would travel the world and they would see some stuff. But somebody please help me understand why we have babies like this that have never been out in their community. But some of us have traveled around the world. I mean, we can go on and on with this, but right now the focus is them. So a lack of appreciation for education, and we have a number of different variables that can be directly correlated to that. You know, but you know, I agree with you, and change needs to start right now.
Hello, and thank you for coming to discuss, you know, a very important topic today. I am Valerie. I think names mean something. A dream, smart with 2 T's, and short. So I have a couple of questions for you, mainly about the topic. But before I ask the questions, what I want to say is I think that our young people model what they see us and they model how we act. So what I mean is that we as the adults are so concerned with our own self-preservation, and that we are modeling that to the young adults who then, when the police or whomever, teachers or whatever, they are just practicing self-preservation. They are practicing, you know, trying to find their confidence. It's just sometimes in the wrong way or the wrong place. But we model the same behavior. I think part of the problem, particularly in Mississippi, or in Jackson, I shouldn't say it over Mississippi, is that the adults are so concerned with self-preservation as the adults that we have lost track. We absolutely don't see the kids.
Wow.
We really don't.
Wow.
I ran for governor last time. I can tell you, we don't see the kids.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. We are, you hear us talk about things that have to do with the kids, but like Cassio says, we don't see the kids. Wow. We're too busy fighting amongst each other, talking about money, where's the funding, who's the money. We don't see the kids. And whether that's because of the distrust, and we're still trying to survive, but we don't. We have that's a problem to me. I think part of the reason your program works is because you do see the kids, because you do care, because you are there, and because you meet them where they are. When I speak to kids, I speak to them just like Georgia. They love for me to come and talk to them. They want you to come and spend time with them. I tell them they're the promised product of their path, their pursuit. You know, they are at every stage and phase of their life, their promise of who they are. And they will build on that. And I can give it to them in 10 or 15 words. I can tell them they can do it in 10 words. They can do it. I don't care how they quote it, as long as they get the message. Because all they need to remember is to be able to be who they are, free to be and free to become. They don't have to explain it to anyone. They don't have to apologize for who they are. You know, as long as they're not doing, stealing, killing, and destroying. But we spend so much time trying to correct, like Georgia says. Our normal young people, most of the time, blaming them for everything that part of the problem is we are the ones that have caused them or are perpetuating them. So I think that we get in our own way and we create a lot of containment, just like John said. So I have a question. My question for you with all of that is, how did you get your program evidence-based to get in the New York school system? Keep doing it. I have an indeed. I cannot get into the school system with all the grand wisdom that I have from my great parents. Talk about health.
That's a very good question.
The second thing is, how receptive were they when you started talking to them about the program? How long did it take you to get in there? And I think I gathered from you said the program's been going on for about 6 years?
We've been in school 6 years.
Okay.
We've been in existence since 2003.
So I thought maybe you started it elsewhere and then gathered.
No, it was in New York. It was just.
No, I mean you started it outside the school system and then went into the school system with the data.
Yes.
That's the way I interpret it. And then how, who did you go to? Like the Department of Education, the individual school, the individual principals, you know, how did you get that done? You can't do it here.
Right.
And, you know, and we have too many levels of containment that really don't allow you to do that.
So I think the question in there was how did we get into the New York City Department of Education and all the other agencies in the city. And so the God's honest truth is so I was working for an organization called the Center for Court Innovation, and we had a collaborative project with the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, and I was running 2 programs. I was a senior administrator, you know, in the city of New York long before I started graphics. And I had an hour-and-a-half lunch break because I was running 2 programs and was in Brooklyn and was bored. And in Brooklyn, we have in New York City, we have a book about the size of a Sears catalog, or the old Sears catalog. I'm telling my age, the old telephone book. So what I had my secretary do, she took about a week, and in this book, it's every single middle school and high school in the city of New York. And remember when I said about the kids and volunteering and doing all that? This is something that my grandmother taught me when I came home from prison. And so what I did was I had my secretary go through this book, and she copied down in a Word document every single email address that was in the book. Was about this thick. Every single email address that was in that book. And I had her, when she finished it, I had her every day, I typed up a paragraph. This is who I was, this is what I did, this is the organization that I work for, in collaboration with the Brooklyn DA's office. I have an hour-and-a-half lunch break, I would like to give back. I want to do a seminar in a classroom somewhere. I can volunteer an hour a day at some school here in Brooklyn. And she sent that thing out, and she sent it out, and she sent it out. It must have been 2,700 schools that she sent that email to. One school responded, Brooklyn Collegiate High School, 216, up in the front of Brooklyn where the DA's office was at. And I would leave the office, and I would walk up to the school, and I would spend an hour. It was the 9th period of the day, and I did the 9th period in that class with those kids. I never intended on having a program in the schools. That happened by accident. I was looking to give back to the kids in a controlled environment, and the school was the spot. The principal gave me the opportunity. It wasn't until one of the kids from the class went home and told his mother about the program. His mother went to a principal at a different school, and the principal called me on the phone and said, "Can you come to my school?" And when I went to that school, the sister said, "How long have you been doing this?" And I said, "I've been at Brooklyn Collegiate High School doing it for, I don't know, probably about 10 months, 11 months. She said, "They pay you for this?" I was like, "No, I just go and do it for." She said, "Do you know you get paid for this?" I said, "You paid for it?" Like, school girl, you paid for it. Like, And that sister walked me through the whole process. How to get it, how to get it in line with the system and everything. She walked me through the A to Z. She walked me through the whole process. And then when that occurred, because I was dealing with this specific population, things just started to happen, and we started to, produce the results. Our data comes from the Chancellor's database. So, see, when you're dealing with these kids, when you're dealing with the population of kids that we deal with, we go into schools and we deal with the kids that everybody's scared of. So our data is cut and paste. I mean, our data is irrefutable. It's either you come to school or you're not. So if a kid has been suspended or a kid is not coming to school 70% of the time, by the time the school year is over, if that attendance has gone from he's not in school 70% of the time until he's in school 100% of the time, who did that? Because for the last couple of years before we got there, he never was coming to school. Incidents are down. It's irrefutable that the data shows incidents are down because all the kids that are wreaking havoc in the school are with us. You can't refute that data. And so as time went on, people just started to recognize that we were who we were. And then, of course, once you do something like that, this person is going to, it'll be and not even senior administrators, it'll be a case manager from here that knows a program director from there, that knows a principal from there, and the ball just kept rolling, and many years later, we contracted to Rikers Island now. That's how we did it.
That's it, right?
I've never been able to do that walk down and summarize thing I wanted to do. Walking around my microphone. Let's thank Donna Ladd, Cassio Batteast, M.A.N.
And we're sorry that we picked on the Youth Media Project kids so much. I hope you guys don't mind. And I was going to call them out and have them say something on the mic, but because it's getting so late, I won't do that. But if you guys would talk to them in our reception up here and say hey to them and start to get to know them, you would love them. So
we'd like to thank Millsaps College for making this room possible, making the video possible. I'd like to thank the Solutions Journalism Network for making a whole lot of this possible. I'd like to invite you all to join us in the other room outside the top door here where we've got a reception. And you have at least one responsibility, which is to watch all these kids and make sure they don't drink anything. Okay?
No, you actually have two. So part of my project, we're developing a community action network, right? Outside in front of the papers, if you have an organization that you're looking at, want to look at changing policies or looking at doing some community work around young men and boys of color, put your name down, email address, and I'll continue because we working with Jackson Public Schools. So, and if you want to just continue to get information on the work that we're doing, please give me your contact.
Thank you guys.